Hey Kevin, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. This Winning Teams series interview is really about winning teams, and this theme speaks so directly to everything you do, the incredible team you're building and the journey ahead. I am so excited to hear about the SRT Motorsports team coming back big time and winning. And this series is really about how you build winning teams, how you build teams that can win consistently over time, having a lasting impact. And of course, in challenging situations where the stakes are high, where there is uncertainty sometimes on how to do that well, and how to bring those resources and talent and capabilities and lead the team through this exciting times, and that bring also lots of opportunities to come up with innovative solutions, be creative, have very strong communication capability on the team. So all of those themes we'll try to uncover in this interview. Thank you so much for joining. So first, maybe before we start, if you can share a little bit about your experience, your current role, for the viewers to kind of have a little more background, more context for our conversation.
Absolutely. First off, it's a pleasure to be here. We're going to have a lot of fun here doing this. So a little bit of background about me. I'm a career motorsports guy. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I got my first taste of it with my family. We would do some amateur racing. Probably by the time I was 14 or 15, I knew for sure, hey, that's the life I want. I'm going to go chase that. So I kind of, sort of structured everything to go achieve that goal. And when I graduated undergrad, I tell people I graduated on a Saturday afternoon, and the very next day I was in Charlotte at the Coca-Cola 600, and I was working on a professional race team. So jumped right in, and for the last 25 years, I've basically worked for race teams, NASCAR race teams specifically. In that time, I've done a variety of different roles. Early on in my career, it was kind of the junior kid, and hey, go take the broom and sweep the floor over there, and kind of was able to work my way up through the ranks, and by the end of my time with race teams, basically had got to the point where I was leading competition, and what that means is a typical NASCAR team might have 2 to 3 individual race teams under the parent organization. I was kind of over top of those individual race teams, as well as sitting over top of the engineering functions of the team, the pit crews, really all things that contribute to competition. So after 25 years of living that life, doing that, I begin to sort of wonder, hey, what's next? What's going to keep me energized for the next 15 years? And an interesting opportunity presented itself to jump in with the folks at Stellantis as they were re-entering the sport of NASCAR. So our big broad goal at Stellantis and the subgroup that I'm under, which is called SRT, is that we're re-entering NASCAR first in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. We're doing that literally on track in about 20 days or so.
Wow! And
once we kind of get our feet under us with that, attention will quickly turn towards what's next, which intuitively most folks would understand that means how are we going to get back into the NASCAR Cup Series, which is the premier series within NASCAR. No timings, nothing to announce here today, but I can just tell you that I am spending a little bit of my time thinking and trying to imagine what that looks like and put some of the building blocks together.
Amazing, incredible journey, and such a rich experience across different stages of that NASCAR competition that we are all, of course, very excited about, and very excited to see the SRT team back and big time since 2012.
Yes, we've been out since 2012. Our organization in our last competitive season in 2012 in the Cup Series, proud to say that that was a championship season for the organization. But unfortunately, things didn't work out very well, and Stellantis, or at the time it was Chrysler Group, backed out of NASCAR racing. But I can tell you that there's been a desire to get back for many years now, and certain circumstances just weren't quite always right to allow that to happen. But this year the circumstances have all lined up, and here we are. Amazing,
amazing. So you literally building now a winning team.
Yes.
Directly speaking to the theme of this series, and in motorsports, in NASCAR, it means very specific thing that I'm assuming you as a leader and the team would like to see. Winning literally means winning the race, and there is of course the whole all the incredible work that comes into the play, whether it's a team itself, building the team, building the technical capabilities to really make it happen, and there are so many complex kind of aspects to that process.
Yes.
So if you can share a little bit how you approach that challenge. How you approach this challenge, it sounds like incredible opportunity. You have all the experience, and you and the team, of course, to make it happen. Yeah. How you approach that as a leader?
Yeah. So what we're building today, first and foremost, we are very much looking at this as a long-term, prospect. It's not something that we're looking at that on day one. That we're just going to hit the track and put 5 of the top 5 trucks in victory lane and 1 through 5. It's not really viewed that way right now. We know that we're effectively starting from scratch, and so to get back in and really to get caught up to where everybody else is, we've got a journey that we're going to be on. What I would tell you is that when you think about professional motorsports and what it takes to win. The very first thing that I always think about is people. At the end of the day, people win races. Yes, we have cars and we have engineering tools and wind tunnels and everything else. It is the people who extract the most performance from those tools and from those vehicles. And so when you think about race car drivers, pit crews, crew chiefs, engineers, it's assembling that group of people who understand, technically what they need to achieve, who have good, just God-given talent, because race car drivers, separate themselves with talent most of the time. But then, assembling that group to, be able to work together. We go into the field and we battle 38 times a year. And of those 38 times, some of those are going to be good, some of those are going to be bad. And so if you can get the people to come together and stay together as one unit and really work towards a common goal, common strategy, that is very easy to say. It's very easy to plan out on a piece of paper. It is incredibly difficult to actually execute. And I think what separates the very best teams from the average teams and the worst teams really is how you bring the people together and resource them and keep them together as they do their jobs.
Yes. And so what, if I'm trying to understand the way you build a team, first from what you can share, what are those people, human qualities that you're looking at when you're selecting the team members, when you building that team that can actually have a very strong probability to deliver the outcomes that you're aiming for?
Yeah, so the roles throughout the team are dramatically different. So the way you kind of evaluate people and you're selecting people for different roles is quite a bit different, if you could imagine that. What I would say is there's a building process. Like if you're starting from scratch, you're not going to go get the very best race car driver who's out there right now to come join you. As a race team, a racing organization, you're going to have to build your resources, prove yourself, get some people on the team within the engineering ranks and the crew chief ranks and things like that before you get a driver to say, yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to go drive those cars. So the driver is kind of like the last piece that comes in. If you think more on the front side, it's getting the management team in place, and to me, that's probably the most important piece when you're getting started, because the management team, they're setting the strategy and the vision for the program, and they're getting the resources and setting the budgets and all that stuff. So it's really important to kind of think through that process, get the right people on the team. The way to do that at the management level, quite frankly, starts with strategy. From my chair, if we have a very clear strategy on what we're trying to achieve and the timeline that we're looking to achieve that in, you kind of use that as a point of reference as you're talking to potential folks who could join the management program, and you're wanting to make sure that generally speaking, there's alignment there. Yeah. And then you're also looking for productivity. These folks who plug into the management roles, these are folks that have been in the sport for a long time, and so you're wanting to look like, hey, what have they accomplished? Have they been able to have some success at various stops along the way?
Just a track record of prior experience, actually being able to execute.
That's right.
The capacity and the fit to the team, the culture trying to build, the winning spirit, the mindset that you need to make sure that this newly assembled team actually will be able to deliver on this major challenge.
That's exactly right. And then, once you kind of step down below the management level, the story's not a lot different. You're looking to get, talented race engineers, talented crew chiefs, talented design engineers and aerodynamicists, and all the different functions that have to come together to build a race team. In some ways you're looking for, productivity. What have folks been able to accomplish in their past? But in other ways, when you get to that level, strategically, you're going to very much have design philosophies or, just common themes about, your approach to racing and how you're going to actually execute on a day in and day out basis. And, it's hard to make a square peg fit in a round hole, right? So you're wanting to kind of really flush through to make sure that that the folks that you're bringing into the organization, they don't have to be completely aligned with the vision, because I think a little diversity there only helps. But you also don't want somebody that's just going left when we're all trying to go right. So you kind of have to somewhat get them in line with what you're trying to accomplish.
It's not only about the technical capabilities, experience, track record. It's also about the fit to the team. So you can building a team that is actually holistic. It can go forward, and you have all the kind of human capabilities aligned, so you can actually deliver on the mission. And of course, this is a new team, like you're saying, and now how you build that right. So you have all the track record of those different people that you bring to the team, and you have the strategy, like you said. Start with the strategy, and so if you can share a little bit, maybe an example where you have, say, early kind of indicators that yes, I can see my team now working as a team. This is a new team, and I start to see some real good indication that yes, we're building this right. Like if you can share with us a few of those examples.
Yeah. So probably for me, a good example of that would have gone back to right around the 2017, 2018 timeline. I joined an organization just earlier that, quite frankly, was we weren't the organization was not doing very well when I joined. There was a variety of reasons for that, and it was kind of a struggle. And so part of my charge was to help get that organization, back to winning races and winning championships.
We need a leader. We need a real leader.
And so, early on in my time there, just sort of looked around and evaluated the staff that was in place. It wasn't like we came in and just chopped all the heads and started over immediately. But over time, there was a kind of an awareness that we were doing things a little, call it old school, and the sport had evolved, and this organization probably hadn't kept up very well. So when we finally pressed go and said, all right, we're gonna make some changes here, there was an alignment that I kind of leaned into with our engineering organization, where we got the right people, put them in the right spots, and by and large, I turned them loose. This organization had a track record of, quite frankly, if people tried and maybe put themselves out there a little bit to achieve, if they did achieve, the organization probably didn't do a very good job of recognizing that achievement and patting them on the back. But if they failed, oh boy, it was pretty bad, right?
And very disproportional.
That's right, for sure. And that wasn't a healthy environment. And you could look around and everybody just was like, scared children almost. Like, hey, we're going to go in a corner and not do anything and just hide, because that's better than actually trying to do something bold. Mm-hmm. We kind of tore all that apart. It was. That was not a healthy environment. It was not the way I wanted folks to operate. So we really flipped that up on its head, and dared people to push, like, hey, go for it. Let's make this happen, because this is the only way we're going to move this thing forward. Okay. And to achieve that, there was a couple leaders just underneath me that we put in spots to really reinforce that message and quite frankly, push on that. And proud to say that, while we never quite climbed the top of the mountain with that organization, it was definitely in a much better spot in just a short amount of time. 2-3 years down the line, we had got ourselves back to where we could win some races. We were, reasonably competitive for most of the time. Would like to have always been able to make it stronger and better than we did, but there were other underlying reasons why that was probably not in the cards. But in the end, I can definitely look on what we built as an engineering organization and tell you that we made it better, and as a result, we were better on the racetrack for it.
Such a great story case where you start with, actually you have early on signals that we need to do different. We need to do something in a very different way. We need to regroup. We need to, reestablish the capacity of that team to actually win the race, or actually perform to the level we need the team to perform, to make those incremental improvements and see the results that, like, what works, what's working, what's not working now, where we need to make more and more investments into.
And to that point, I would say that, and if any of my former engineers watch this, they will laugh when I say this, but the hardest thing in motorsports, and quite frankly, this probably extends to a lot of life, the hardest problem is understanding what it is you're trying to fix.
Yeah.
Most of the time, once you have a complete understanding of what it is you're trying to fix, the actual fix isn't that hard. But it's understanding clearly with just absolute precision, these are the things we're trying to fix. And once you can do that, I think that focus allows you to just go execute at that point. And as long as there's not roadblocks in the way, the executing is actually not that hard.
It's interesting. So this is very much in line with what we are studying here in the program, that the healthy process, leadership and change process starts with defining the right problem to solve. So we typically think, we might think that it's all about knowing the goal, where I'm heading, but it's so much about the baseline. If you identify the right problem to focus on, and this is where, if you don't do that well, if the foundation is not built in a very robust way and very focused, it's going to be very difficult to build a process that will get us to achieve the goal.
And process is the key word there. So many very accomplished sports figures, kind of always fall back to the process. Like, hey, it's not about winning games. If we show up in practice and we go through our process and we focus on our process and we refine our process, then when we get to game day, everything's in line for us to just go execute and live our process. And so, all these sports leaders kind of focus on the process, which is really another way of saying, hey, the goal is out there and we all understand what that goal is, but if we focus on that goal over process, we're never going to get there.
Yes, exactly.
And so let's focus on the details that allow us to get there.
Yeah.
And motorsports is no different.
And it's such a transferable frame of reference or principle across industries, right? So I think what's potentially one of those differentiate or very specific I think indicators in motorsports or in professional sports in general, that you can have data and essentially analytics that will suggest whether or not you are on the right track, like whether or not the pit stop, the race itself, right? So you have very almost immediate or close to immediate kind of measurable indicators of success, and you can optimize for those. And like you're saying, going back, almost back engineering. Okay, so what needs to be optimized? What needs to be improved in order to get to those results? And this is not in some industries you just don't have that luxury, right? So because there are some proxies for success, for financial performance and other things, but this in motorsports or professional sports, it's just you have very clear data whether or not you are making progress toward the goal you're trying to achieve.
I mean, it's an instant feedback world that we live in. There's no question about it. There's very few industries where at the end of the day, if you did a good job, they give you a trophy and a check, and somebody's standing there with a microphone in front of you saying, "How did you accomplish this today?" Right? Like that doesn't hapen in much of the real world.
Celebration. Let's celebrate.
But in our world, that's an every week occurrence. So it's very easy to measure where you stand and what your progress looks like and what your rate of progress looks like. That's good and bad. It's good from the standpoint that there's very extreme clarity on the situation. Like it's not left up for doubt. I would say the bad that comes with it is that sometimes, and you see this in sports throughout the world, really, because it is such an instant feedback situation. I think personnel moves and things like that happen at a far more rapid pace. Like coaches get chucked out and quarterbacks get benched and race car drivers lose their jobs and everything else in very short order when performance is not there. Sometimes unjustifiably so. So that is kind of the negative part of the instant feedback. But I don't know that I would personally do very good in a job that, hey, 15 years from now, I'll find out if I did good or not. That would be pretty miserable. But maybe it's just because I've been so predispositioned all my life now to understanding that, hey, I did a good job this weekend. And it measures right away.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be great, and I'm very excited to see, of course, the process.
Yes.
Not only the outcome. This is such a great analogy also to like the instant feedback to some of the other industries. In part, what we are trying to uncover in those interviews is also the specific, what they call human skills or human power skills that come into the play across different industries. Of course, leadership is one. We had a little bit the opportunity to uncover those on your team. So when it comes to coming up with some unconventional original solutions that can optimize toward the milestones in this process that we were discussing, or I'm assuming communication is very significant. If you can share maybe cases where it can bring it to life a little bit, some of those skills and how you also how you observe those skills in action.
Right. Yeah. We have so many different roles within the organization that I would say there's probably a whole variety of skills that can come into this, equation. When you think about like a crew chief as an example, that's the guy that's really sitting on top of the pit box, making all the decisions. He's the guy communicating with the driver. When we have to pit, he's the guy that's making that decision, and he's saying, "Hey, we're going to put 4 tires on this stop, and we're going to fill it up with gas, and we're going to make these adjustments." That guy has a lot going on, in entire life because he's making so many decisions throughout the course of a week. But during the race, particularly, what I would say about that guy is really kind of two things stand out to me. And keep in mind, I have been a crew chief, so I've lived that job. I don't know that I was a very good crew chief. Looking back on it, I'm probably my own worst critic on that. But I know the things that you need to do well, and I probably didn't do some of those very
right
well.
Right there, the self-aware leadership
example. That's right. As a crew chief, intuition has largely been something that stands the best out from the average. I think that dynamic is changing a little bit as we get more analytics in the sport and our ability to actually action on those analytics in real time is starting to improve. I wouldn't say we're completely devoid of intuition anymore, but certainly the tools are helping to do the job. But the ability to think quick on your feet and kind of go with your gut feeling, recognizing the situation that you're in and what is the right response for, we're playing a game. Let's call it for what it is.
So decisiveness, right?
That's
there is some decisiveness in the moment
it is
to make the right call.
It is a real-time game theory, in live on TV, right?
No time for exercises and homework.
And so the time part is what's critical here. You have to make decisions literally in a split second. And a lot of people will say that, and it's almost like a metaphor, but in our world, it's reality.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, it's real. A split second, let's make this decision. And, those decisions can then perpetuate the outcome of your race, far down the line. 3-4 more pit stops, you might be recovering from a bad decision that happened early in the race. So you really have to be quick on your feet and have a really good intuitive sense on what the right calls are at the right time as a crew chief. That is a very hard job. But there's other roles, there's just, general development engineers, aerodynamicists and design engineers and those guys. What I would say is a little different for them. They're not necessarily having to make those quick decisions like a crew chief would, but their intuitive sense on what will bring performance to the car, their ability to match engineering principles to design, get them on the drawing board and then get them into the cars. That is very much a science. It's all rooted in physics. However, there's an art to it, and there's people who can do that job better than others. So as we're thinking about people to bring on the team and what we're looking for, a lot of it is sitting down the interview process and kind of working through someone's the way they think about problem solving and what tools they would bring to the equation to help solve those problems. Those things make a huge difference. And the talented ones typically have a lot of creativity and are very resourceful. They're able to find ways to get things done when sometimes maybe they didn't have all the tools or technology that they needed to actually do it the right way, but they still find a way and they find performance.
That's such a great example, and of course, like you said, decisiveness is split of a second, but also what separates the top performers from, like you said, the mid-range is all of those accumulation of all of those little things that make the difference and basically to outperform others.
That's exactly right. There's not, in professional motorsports, almost universally, there's not like one big silver bullet that makes the difference.
Yeah.
It is a game of stacking pennies, and the next thing you know, you've got $1, and the next thing you know, you got a $10 bill, and you just keep stacking those pennies up until you have performance that exceeds your competition. It is all those little detailed things that matter, and you're wanting to get a team built who can really understand what those details are, and then have the ability to go action and accomplish on those details.
Speaking about you mentioned physics and the very specific things that where you can develop certain outperforming capabilities. I was always curious about that, the fact that you essentially, in my humble, perspective from my physics background, so you're basically optimizing. You're almost always going left, right? So there is certain. Not obvious at all kind of optimization essentially that you need to do. I'm anticipating, in terms of asymmetry between, in terms of driving capability of the car, which is of course unusual for like regular stock car, right? But then you have something that is very special to NASCAR, and that's different from say Formula One when it's of course different types of tracks and a different car. But there is something very special there. If you can share maybe a few words about that. Asymmetry and how it comes into the play. It's really unique.
Yeah, there's a very small club of people who can say that they've spent the majority of their life only focused on how to make a ignorant piece of steel turn left as fast as possible.
Yes.
I'm one of those guys. So yes, in NASCAR racing, we do turn left a lot. Not exclusively, but for the most part, it's left-hand turns, and we do build a symmetry into the cars. So, for example, from a just pure mechanical sense, if you think about the front tires and even the rear tires, we're building camber angle into the cars, and so like the right fronts will always be negative camber and the left fronts will always be positive camber. Same thing with the rears. When it comes to aerodynamic balance, if you're always turning left, you want a yaw moment that tends to be a stabilizing yaw moment. When I talk about yaw moment, I'm talking about aerodynamic yaw moment. You want that aerodynamic yaw moment to always be a stabilizing effect in a left-hand turn and not destabilizing. From a weight balance standpoint, so we will tend to put more, both statically and dynamically. We'll put more weight on the left rear and right front tires than we will left front and right rear tires. Again, taking advantage of the fact that we're always turning left and the way the tires behave through what's called a normal load sensitivity. You're trying to optimize the total lateral acceleration capability of the vehicle in a left-hand environment.
Yes.
So you can kind of bias and sort of take advantage of what the tires give you by structuring how and where you put the weight. So there's we could talk for hours on that topic because there's so many things that we do to really just focus on getting this thing to go left.
Fascinating. The second thing, and maybe last, not overwhelmed with folks with physics and this the specificity. Although again, it's fascinating for me, and I'm sure for many others who will watch that. There are also different tracks, right? Different surface essentially that you need to optimize for, and this is still, this car needs to perform across all of those different, not just going left. That's right. most of the time, but also perform on different tracks. So what again, best practices? Nothing, of course, beyond that, but NASCAR best practices. So what's how this consideration comes into the play when the cars are being built or being prepped for this specific track, when you have a very different surface from the one that you performed before on.
So you can take a typical NASCAR schedule and break it out into about 4 to 5 different classifications of tracks. You'll have what we call a short track, which might be like a half-mile to 1-mile track. Typically tight corners, slow speed, relatively speaking, short straightaways. We have setups and car configurations that are very much focused for performance at that style track.
Okay.
And if you go to the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Daytona and Talladega, which are 2.5-mile tracks that we run completely wide open all the way around the racetrack. We have restrictor plates at those tracks. And so that forces us into this aerodynamic optimization where we're trying to get all the drag reduced out of the car and basically make our top speed as fast as possible. And then you have everything in the middle, which is like 2 or 3 other buckets. And then, by the way, we have road courses and street courses where we turn right occasionally. So what that really means is, for all those classifications of tracks, you kind of have sort of standard setup philosophies that you may start with. But then, within those buckets of tracks, each one of them are still a little bit different. Like you said, the surfaces are different.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a 1.5-mile track here is the same distance as this 1.5-mile track, but the banking and the corner radius and straightaway lengths, they're all a little bit different. And so we really do get into optimization for each individual racetrack. And the way we do that these days is we have really just incredible vehicle simulation where we can quite literally run hundreds of thousands of runs of simulation prior to a race weekend and do optimization on all that results to kind of come back with maybe not like the easy button one setup that you're going to run, but you can definitely kind of get it zoned into an area that you want to play in. And then you have to go to the racetrack and actually execute and make some changes and find out what's the best.
Optimization through simulations, and then there is a real
That's right.
real testing that is happening.
They never handed a trophy out for the fastest lap in simulation. It only gets handed out on the racetrack with real cars. So you still have to make it work there.
And this is just, we uncovered just the tip of the iceberg of all of this complexities that come into play, and this is what makes NASCAR race so much fun.
Yeah.
And of course, for people who actually leading the way, I'm assuming it's really fascinating. So many great insights, Kevin. Anything else you would like to share in the context of the executive MBA program here at Sloan and how this intersects with your day-to-day job, very, very important and challenging mission you had for you and for the team ahead. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the MBA program for me, I've spent 25 years, like I said earlier, figuring out how to make ignorant pieces of steel turn left. And along the way, I picked up traits of leadership and business sense and these things. But I wouldn't say I was ever formally trained on any of that. You just kind of get immersed in it and you sort of figure it out as you go. For me, stepping into this program is almost, I've got an awesome journey that I'm on now professionally, and using some of these skills that I'm learning here at this program to almost go back and the things that I picked up along the way, maybe now we'll get a little bit of formal training and actually learn maybe the right way to do a few things as I'm setting myself up for building this organization that we're doing. I want to get this one right, and I think this program is really going to help to reinforce some of the skills that I need to get this thing right.
Like I said, principled approaches.
That's right.
And based on so much experience that you bring into the play, that's the winning combination.
That's right.
This is great. Kevin, anything else you would like to share with the people watching the series? Any lessons for future leaders based on your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the message that I would give for future leaders, start with a strategy. And really understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. What are the problems you're trying to solve, and then once you get to the tactical level, really focus on the people. Make sure that you have the right people on the team. Really invest in your people, and then let them go to work. Don't micromanage. Hire the right people and stand back and allow them to make you look good. And in the end, when that happens, we all look good. So I think there's a process there of how to build teams, and if you just jump in and ignore the process, you're not really going to achieve all that you could hope to achieve.
Such a great lesson based on so much experience in industry where, again, the goal is very clear. The challenges are so multifaceted, and you, of course, have an incredible journey now with the team, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing, one way or another, and it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm excited for it. We're really just getting started on it. 4 or 5 years time, maybe we can do this again, and we can talk about all the good results that we've had.
Yes.
But no matter how it turns out, I am quite certain it's going to be a lot of fun, and just looking forward to building this.
Yes. Go SRT team.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
You go. Thank you.
Thank you.